Today's topic will be about adolescence and life, talked about by our dear friend Leo Vieira. We all know him. Don't need much of an introduction, but it definitely is a very important opportunity for us to take a listen to the perspectives, because we know that a lot of tonight's talk will be somewhat based, and Leo will go into, in a book that was written by Joanna de Angelis by the mediumistic hands of Divaldo Franco. It is in English. We recommend it. It's very good. Whether you have an adolescent or not, it's very good. So without further ado, we wanted to go ahead and welcome our dear Leo to the stage, or up here.
Start this again. Good evening. Thank you. And we would like to start tonight's message, if we can call it this way, as Kirsten have said. This is a topic that we were studying and revisiting, if we may say as well, that Joanna de Angelis brings so well to us. So yes, with no further ado, we invite everyone to read the book. It's actually the same name in the Adolescence and Life. I know some of you have read it, and they're reading together with family members and all. But as she said in her message of Happy Life, always reminding us that we are an example for someone, right? That we are part of somebody's life, someone else's life. And by no means, when we bring this topic, we want to say that we have mastered, because we have not. By no way means we would like to point fingers or to say anything that may offend others. The book in itself, it's an invitation to reflect about the partnership, and that's what we would like to call a partnership between our family members, us and our family members. When we talk about, partnership as far as the father and the mother, the daughter and the father, the mother and the son, you name it, it's a partnership. And a partnership usually is established on mutual consent, on mutual help, right? It's not just one way. It's coming from both ways. In the same level, if we can say this way as well, if we can deliver that way, not wishing more than we can give. So, if we can say this way, a disclaimer, because, sometimes we may feel that, oh my God, I have done something in the past, now I have to reap the consequences. So we're no doctors on the topic, and we're far from being it. And I think, for the most part, as many speakers have come here, whenever we're presented with the topic to speak and to talk about it, it's because we need more than anybody else. So, with no further ado, let's analyze this idea of adolescence and life. Has everybody have been an adolescent one day, right? Everybody, okay. All right. Nobody jumped from childhood to whatever you guys are right now. I know everybody's young here, and so, but we would like to analyze the following message brought by Allan Kardec: to be born, die, again be reborn, and so progress incessantly. Such is the law. When we read this, and when we study Spiritism, when we talk about the beyond, the life after life, it's very easy, right? Because the first thing that we think is, okay, I'm not dying, which is a very consoling idea. It's a beautiful thing when we think that, okay, this is not it. There's more to it. And it gives us hope for those who are longing, those who have passed already. It's a beautiful thing. It's a consoling thing. But as we go along with this message, we forget one thing, that this is not the beginning. There was something prior to this. There's way more than what it is now here. What helps me be myself, what helps my brother or sister be himself or herself. There's much more, and sometimes we tend to hide that idea, put under the carpet, and we don't want to deal with it. Whatever luggage we bring from the past, oh, that's the past. We don't, but we have to analyze, and that's something that we would like to bring to the content here today, because we quite often, again, we forget this. We just avoid this idea. The other, if we can say, structure that we can bring to this talk as well is the passage of the book Evolution in Two Worlds by André Luiz. when he says that the cosmic fluid is the divine plasma, the Creator's breath, or the nervous force of the All-Wise. In this primordial element vibrate and live constellations and suns, worlds and beings like fish in the ocean. So it's not just the sun, it's the moon, the earth, it's everybody, all of us. So when we're taking this approach of dealing with adolescents, dealing with children, dealing with family members, as we have talked for the past 4 weeks here, 3 weeks here at the Spiritist of Baltimore, and many other examples that we have studied here, we take this message and we remind ourselves of one thing. We're all in this boat together. If we're in a pool, as we have mentioned here before, and I start splashing water everywhere, you may not get some water in your face, but you will feel the ripple, you will feel the vibration in the pool. So we all immersed in this. When we look at all that's going on outside, all the difficult things that is going on, and we say, oh, this doesn't affect me. It does. And with that, it comes responsibility. Because whatever I'm doing, it's going to create a repercussion on somebody else's life. And the beautiful thing with this as well, that if we take an extra step to analyze this, is just not what in the here and the now, but also years to come, right? Years to come. We have seen many events that, quote unquote, we say, this will make history. We're making history right now. Whatever we do, we're making history. Whatever decision we make, we're making history. What does this have to do with all of this idea of adolescence and life? Well, let's take a look on, some of these books that we have here, these true stories that we have here 2,000 years ago. When we see the senator being the father of Flavia, one of the characters, right, with dedicating his fatherhood as a good parent, a good father, and teaching the kid, giving the best quality of teachings to his daughter. Not to say that he was perfect then, right? But he was trying the best that he could to give the best that he could at the time. There were better things that could have accomplished and done at the time. But we know that those two characters then, in 2,000 years ago, who are they now? Emmanuel and Chico Xavier. And we take just a step 2,000 years ago, a little more than 2,000 years, and we ask ourselves, if Emmanuel then didn't take the approach or the decision, didn't make the decision that he made then, could have delayed the progress that we have in Spiritism? Could he have also made it faster if he had taken some other approach in his life, personal life, and towards his family as well? He could have. Thank God we have what we have nowadays. We're not, criticizing. But we're just remembering that, reminding one another that it's just not in the here and the now, but what are we creating for the future, right? And this is for ourselves first, and obviously applying on our daily lives. Just something that we would like to bring over here as we talk about the difficulties that we face in life. This is a statistic that we brought from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, talking about youth suicide. We're not going to go through the whole thing. It's very alarming, but we see here that suicide is a serious public health problem that affects even young people. For youth between the ages of 10 and 24, suicide is the third leading cause of death. It results in approximately 4,600 lives lost each year. Pretty astounding. And then it goes more young people, I'm just going over the red markings over here, more young people survive suicide attempts than actually die. Each year, approximately 157,000 youth between the ages of 10 and 24 receive medical care for self-inflicted injuries at emergency departments across the U.S. And then we can just go to the cdc.gov to find more about this and read more. Of the reported suicides in the 10 to 24 age group, 81% of the deaths were males and 19% were females. Girls, however, are more likely to report attempting suicides than boys. But we see that boys are able to get to the point that we don't want them to get to. Here we're reporting materialistic, if we can say this way, statistic. And I'll explain what I'm trying to say. This is what's happening right now. The numbers are pretty alarming. But this is actually literally finishing your physical life, right? No more. You don't have the physical body. But what about, or we can say the direct suicides, right? I will go and take my own life. What about the indirect suicides that is happening out there now? The drinking problems, abuse of sex, abuse of, all sorts of things that we have been through that. And it's still happening. And it's still calling for our attention because we'll see a little bit more. It's a problem that we all went through, and we have to be compassionate, but we have to be more active with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our constructive criticisms as well, and many other things that we can name it. But this is something for us just to be alert of what's going on. Because they're here saying, okay, people are just thinking, or they're doing, and all those things, but we want to take those two sides as well. As we know, André Luiz as well, he was considered a suicide person. And to his astoundment, he was, I'm me, suicide? No, I'm not a suicide. Well, you have the education, you're a doctor, and you're drinking. You know better, quote unquote. Because sometimes the smoke and all those things too, because sometimes, knowing, not necessarily really, let's say, takes care of the problem, we have to apply it. We have to sublimate our feelings to make sure that we are engaging and, being an example in our daily lives to ourselves, not to anybody else. But here is just something for us to take a look at it. As we saw, and Kirsten mentioned as well, this book, Adolescence and Life, it's a beautiful book. It brings many, many topics that perhaps, we can go through the whole night or perhaps for days just studying each chapter. It's a beautiful thing. She puts it in such a beautiful way. Is it the key for the problems of our lives, for our kids? Not necessarily, because again, we have to apply it. We have to go back to our roots, go back to our daily necessities as well, because it's important to analyze physical and our moral necessities and really analyze. But these are some of the topics that she talks about. But I would like to, well, as you can see, the lessons in their sexuality, the lessons in in the family, adolescents' love and passion, dating, topics that we see that, every day. And if we were to talk to a teenager, we know that this is very alarming. But I would like to do something real quick. Doesn't have to be take too much time. Oops. Let's do this. Okay, stay. Very obedient. Let's do something constructive here. Let's talk about ourselves. Let's find 5 things that when we went through our teenage years, that it was very happy to us, very nice to us, that we remember, that we liked. You guys are not there yet, but you can help. Give me 1 second. Paula. Huh? Okay, sport. All right. Loud. Loud music. Okay, so music in general. Well, we keep the loud there. Okay. Alba. Okay. Youth group. Okay. What else? 2 more. Okay, friends, right? Okay, and okay, what would you say? I'm sorry. Daniel got my attention. What did you say? Challengings. Okay, challenges. Okay, that's a good one. All right, Daniel. Sports. Okay, and Sarah, I'm going to add one from Sarah, just so shopping. Okay, shopping is fun. Okay, and I'm pretty sure they were saying there, I love that idea. Okay, now let's do one thing. let's talk about 5 things, or 6 since we did, oh, I don't have a red one, of things that we didn't like, that we hated the most. Okay? School. Okay. Oops. And I can't write school, guys. Whatever. Rules. Okay. Rules. Cleaning. Okay. Okay. Cleaning, chores. All right. Okay. Responsibility? We'll just, okay. Sleeping early. Okay. All right. One more. Paula. Discipline? Uh-huh. Wow. Okay. So, I will. Homework. Okay. Homework. All right. All right. So we have the good things: sports, loud music, youth group, friends, challenges, shopping. The bad things: school, rules, cleaning, sleeping early, self-doubt, homework. If we look at this thing now, and now comes the serious part. Anybody here look at these things and say that we are completely free of these bad things hunting us sometimes? We're not. We are not. I mean, if anybody can say that they have to do the homework, if you're in school, if you have to do something for work and you have to deal with it, right? The kids do. They're here. They can back us up. Now, what about the good things? How many of us can say that all of these things does not cross our minds anymore? Daniel said about the soccer. Daniel said about, if you were to ask Daniel, you think he would say, oh, no, I don't want to go to that soccer. We see these things. Now, let's take this and apply now for all in our, if we were a teenager, and for all the teenagers out there, this is what they're going through. Especially with the hormones that are going on and all the different changes that are going on in their body. They're facing this now. And we still haven't been able to free ourselves from it. So why is this here? Why is this homework? Because sometimes, and it's easy for us to point fingers to just to go ahead and say, oh, liberate yourself from this, but it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. And it takes a lot of help as well. This is just a homework for us to see that whenever we are, trying to implement something, especially in the lives of others, how hard that is. So let's take that as one of the approaches for us to also make these changes in our lives. Take this little work here and say, okay, how hard would have been in my life to perhaps apply the things that we're going to be seeing now? Because Joanna de Angelis, very wisely, she always brings this into a group of people, not just to the individual, but how we play our part, on this game as well, if we can call it that way. I would like to bring a case that, by the way, we're studying this book right now on Thursdays, Action and Reaction, that André Luiz brings to us in this beautiful collection of the life in the spirit world. It is chapter 2, when Druso, the mentor of the Mansão Paz, actually is giving a, we can say a short talk or addressing a group of spirits that are not in a good state, morally speaking. They're suffering. They're recovering to perhaps find their way again into a new reincarnation. The story in itself, the chapter in itself, what he brings to us is very enlightening. But towards the end of his talk, of his address to the group of spirit, this lady comes to Druso in an inquisitive way and asks the following: when can I leave for the terrestrial realm with my son, Paulo? I visit him in the darkness as often as I can. He neither sees nor hears me. He is unaware of his moral misery and continues to be authoritarian and proud. But I don't see him as my enemy. He is an unforgettable son. Oh, how can love contract such an enormous debt? And then Druso addresses her, and she says, well, pretty soon he'll be out of that situation, and you also have the position to reincarnate again with him. They go into this beautiful discussion of what may happen, what not may happen, as far as her success in this endeavor that she wants to reincarnate again. But here we see a person crying for another opportunity to reincarnate with this person that in the past, as Druso explains, she really contracted some debts. The way she raised him, giving him the ability to think that he was everything. He has, as Druso's word, she instilled ideas of unhealthy superiority in him, and they crystallize in his mind, encountering him to rebelliousness and brutality. Encouraging him. The wretch was a social tyrant, and after the death of his body, he was drawn awareness into the dreadful darkness. So this is something that the mother, who is crying for help right now, helped him contract this debt, and now she's asking for the help. What do we see here? Number one is the love that Druso is bringing to all of us when someone comes and asks for such a help. He's providing at Mansão Paz. The love of God for giving her the opportunity to reincarnate again with her son, that perhaps she really did not do so well in the past. And Druso also explains that she will reincarnate in a much difficult situation, economically speaking, that she can focus on what's really necessary. Because in the past she had some conditions that perhaps helped her deviate from her teachings that she has. And he clearly says she understands. She has the understanding on how to conduct her life, but she just felt that it was too easy. Let's follow the easy life, right? And how many times we see this? But what we want to focus here is the love. It's this idea that this ability that we're given by God to, again, make amends to what we have done in the past. How many of us have done this in the past? Many of us. And we ask, okay, and now I want to reincarnate. I want to see this person again. And there we go, right? We tell ourselves, just as Jesus told all of us, let the children come to me, and do not hinder them. For the kingdom of heaven is for those who are like them. Verily I say to you, anyone who does not receive the kingdom of heaven like a child will not enter it. Don't we receive? And we're fast forwarding now. When we pass the ages of troubles and the beautiful things that we saw here, and then we finally construct a family, and we have a husband or wife or a partner, whatever we want to call, and we receive the children. They're the beautiful little things that we see. They go pretty fast, and there's no mother, there's no father that will say, oh, my daughter is this, my son is this. They're so beautiful. So that is the time that the child needs, or all of us need to, again, kind of reestablish those good connections that we have from the past. Sometimes by beauty, sometimes by fragility, right? Because it's so fragile. I mean, you look at a baby, you're like, okay, any little thing, I mean, just living there, not giving food, it will perish. So that, again, reestablished the connection. And then comes the years of jumping around, doing all those things, going through those things that we saw here, as well as the changes in the body that we all know. We all went through it. We can't deny it, that we all went through it. This passage serves us as several, so we can analyze this in different ways. Number one is for us to really let them come, because it's an opportunity for us to make amendments for, past wrongdoings, whatever we want to call, but also for us to look at these childs, knowing that they're going to go through the changes, or if they are going through the changes now, and say, let's keep them this way. Let's keep them children. Let's keep them without, from falling into certain problems that perhaps we did in the past, or we have seen others fall as well, so they can enter the kingdom of God. What are we trying to say? That we're going to keep our kids from, the difficult stuff that is out there that we have to show them, or they will see one day? Because one day, when they become adults, they will leave, right? But no, we want to make sure that we talk to them, we help them understand that we're all going through this process of making ourselves better. It's not making somebody else or a group of people. It's making ourselves better. Us as parents as well, us as educators, when we talk to a child and say, I'm sorry for this, or I have erred, we're teaching them that it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to go ahead and like something that perhaps is not crucial for our lives right now. I love sports as well. I wish I could be doing a bunch of things, but is it the right time? No. I like also going out, listening to music, but is it the right time? So finding purpose in life, I think that's the best way that we can put it. Finding purpose in life. So, and another thing that I would like to bring on this passage here is that when the apostles saw people bringing children to Jesus for him to lay the hands on and to bless the children, they were like, why are these people here? Why are they? And Jesus then again said, no, let the children come. Let the children come. And the same thing with us. We're also children. We can also analyze our immaturity, spiritually speaking. We're not evolved spirits yet that we don't go through those issues, those problems. This right here is just as we enter now in that age of the difficult moments and all, there is a beautiful passage, not in English yet, pretty soon I hope, of the book Spiritist Conduta Espírita. It's chapter 2, and it's regarding the teenagers, and this is also in the Bible by Paul. Flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. The message is beautiful, but again, we just bring this here that as we are talking about, again, engaging in new conversation, in new interest, analyzing the problems that we bring from the past, and dealing with the day-to-day lives issues, right? This is what we want to call. Not that our kids, they're not going to engage in sports. Not that our kids won't go to school and engage with other kids. Talk about the prom. Talk about the sports. They will. We went through it, and it's okay. But what do we have to do? We have to, again, analyze the purpose behind. We have to analyze and give them confidence that they can deal with it in a natural way without really, let's say, shying themselves from it. One of the things that Joanna de Angelis actually mentions on the book is that we bring these things from so many lives from the past. For example, the necessity about talking about sex, the necessity of talking about our sexuality in general. In the past, these things, we went through an age that we couldn't talk about it. And a lot of parents now, I don't want to talk about this. And then the school sends a note saying, we will present a movie, as has happened recently. A couple weeks ago, a friend of mine, she told me that she got this message by email saying that they're going to show, a movie about sexuality to the kids. Obviously, thank God she talks about it. She have talked about it with her daughter. But if we don't do it, somebody else will. So they will face those issues. So it's better for them to listen from us in an educated level, obviously, and then somebody else tells or shows something that perhaps they're not prepared. And then the shock comes, and then we may create issues in the kid's life that we don't want or may have greater problems in the future. Another beautiful story that we can bring here, since we're talking about, as we can see, there is no other way to talk about this or to accomplish these things without the presence of a family, the presence of a structure. When we talk about family, here is not this conventional family that we society has proposed to us. Then the father, the mother, and the daughter and the son. Again, it has to be that tutor. It has to be that teacher that is guiding the kid. Number one, we have gone through, talking as an adult, we have gone through the tribulations that they're going through. We know a little bit about it. At least we have felt it. We can say that we know, but at least we have felt it. Number two, we can discern better, especially because we're not going through the influences of the hormones that are making them, jump from left to right, up and down. But the necessity of a family, the need of a guide, some kind of guidance. And when I say this guidance as well, we have to remember the example So here in this book, Boa Nova, or Good News, it's not translated yet, soon hopefully. I believe it's on its way, right, Kirsten? The insights that we got, we can say it's on its way. And we hope that when we get it, we study as well, because it's just a beautiful book. This is chapter 2 of this book. It gives information. It's called Jesus and the Precursor. It talks about Jesus as well as John the Evangelist. And it starts with a conversation between Elizabeth and Mary, Jesus' mother. And they were talking about the two boys. Humberto de Campos here is narrating them talking about the two boys, John and Jesus, and how peculiar they were, how different they were in society as kids, as they're going through this change in their lives. And it's a beautiful passage because if you can read Portuguese, please, we invite you. If you can't, we'll read together somehow. We'll find a way to translate. But it's a really beautiful passage. And as any mother, any concerned mother, Mary is then talking to Elizabeth, saying what Jesus does. He's talking to the crowd. He's helping people who are sick on the street. He's just, helping, doing all kinds of things that a kid wouldn't be doing. Yeah, he was playing as well. He was doing the mundane things that other kids were doing, but his concern was something else. His ideals was something else. So was John the Evangelist as they were growing up. And Mary, very concerned, she tries to engage Jesus into the studies of the church at the time, or the synagogue at the time. And Jesus then comes back to her as if he already knew what was going on behind the scenes. And obviously he did. He could sense it, being a wise spirit. And he comes and says the following to her, to calm her down. He says, "Mother, what do you want from me? Don't I have witnessed my fellowship with the Father who is in heaven?" And she's like, "Oh my God, why are you saying such a thing?" And she's really like, and then he continues, "Mother, every useful preparation and generous work in the world is precious. However, I am already with God. My Father, however, desires all of us, every good exemplification, and I will choose thus the best school." And what he does? Later on, he comes to his father, Joseph, and say, "Can I work at the shop with you?" Choosing, showing us, as Humberto de Campos says, choosing the family as the best school. There is no other best school than the family. Showing to her that outside, yes, the preparation is good, as we see as well. We often think of sending kids to a different school here and there. It's plausible, yes. We have to. We have to conquer new grounds. We have to get to know other people. But the little that we have at home with the family is the structure. And we saw with Daniel, Kirsten, and Alba as well, when we talk about family constellation, how important it is for us to have the understanding of a family gathering. And then we take a step forward and we talk about family constellation, right? As Jesus says, who is my brother? Who is my sister? Who is my mother? Right? Think on the beyond. It's not just the corporeal relationships, but here is an example of what Jesus brought to us. Being an elevated spirit, bringing this to us, we have to think on both sides. That yes, he had a preparation before, but he was still coming back to the roots and saying, my father and my mother, this is the true school of life. And what I will learn in the beyond, it's just applause into it. Another addition, as we take from the book, Adolescence and Life, family is the moral laboratory where the experiments of evolution take place, where sentiments are distilled and emotion purified, giving the opportunities to its members to achieve spiritual balance as long as they accept love as the divine catalyzer that will transform challenges and difficulties into harmony. Look, she's not talking just the adolescents. She's not just putting this out there for the adolescents. Talking about everyone. It's, as we said, that partnership, as we said at the beginning, that exchange of feelings, of sentiments, that perhaps, depending how we approach one another, the difficulties will be changed into harmony. Does it happen overnight? No. Does it happen perhaps in months, years? Sometimes takes, as we saw, different lifetimes, different reincarnations. And it's a fact that we have to accept. We can't run from it. Many parents, we may say that, we may analyze, if we were to analyze, not that we're here criticize or anything like that, we see that they provide to their kids or to the kid, a good school, a good home, but the kids sometimes, they don't take it very well because of the rebellions that they have brought from the past. And Joanna de Angelo also addresses this. If you do your part, so be it. We tried it. But the seed will be there. One day, when they wake up from that sleeping mode, if we can call it that way, something's going to change. Their life will change, and the life of others will change as well. And one of the things that we came across as we're preparing this thing as well, when we talk about kid or different kids, many parents they tend to say, I gave my kids everything that I could, the same education, the same this, the whatever I could give to one, I gave to the other, and they were different. This person did this, that kid did that. Well, we start erring from the get-go there because no one is alike. None of us will receive the teachings the same way, will perceive the same way. We may share some ideals, but everybody's different in a way. If we had siblings, we can just take a peek back in our lives and say, okay, yes, makes sense. And sometimes our parents, or us, the parents, or the educators of society in general, not just a group of people, we think that everybody have to respond or everybody have to obey the laws or whatever we implement the same way possible. No, different level of evolution, different level of understanding. So it's just something that crossed our minds as we were preparing this. So here we are. When we are, again, in the family and we're dealing with one another, we're instructing one another, what are we trying to accomplish when it comes down to a relationship? Tolerance, right? And we guys can engage on it too. Joanna de Angelo is very wise because she brings us this idea of relationship that is something from another world, that is this, again, this I'll give some, you give me back. I'll give some, you give me back. This, eternal exchange of care, eternal, and we'll see more of this, eternal exchange of love. It's not just one way. And usually kids, when they are going through this process of transformation, they tend to feel that love is just one-way street, that they have to receive it all. They want all for themselves. It's normal because they're feeling secured, right? They're feeling that they need something more. Other kids have a bunch of other things that they don't have, or perhaps some capabilities that they may not have, and they need that. So they're trying to compensate with something else. So we have to show again that this relationship, this partnership, is not something that perhaps started at this moment, but perhaps in the past, but it's a relationship. It's not just me wanting for me. Possibilities and limits. We just talked about it, right? When we think that, especially the boys, we think that we're capable of anything. That 17-year-old age, it's just I can do it all. Don't tell me otherwise. I know better. And sometimes we see that in girls too. Also our limits, because sometimes when we don't feel as capable as others, we may do what? Put ourselves aside from society. I don't want to deal with that group because they're better than I am. But it's not like that, because also those kids, those other individuals have a limit. When we at work, for example, taking again back to the adulthood, if we can say it that way, at work, how many times do we feel that way? Man, I'm kind of limited. That person can grasp this much better than I do. But you recognize that in what you do, you hopefully go and talk to that person. I need some help with this. I know you can, get this pretty fast, and I need some help with, until you also get to that point. Sometimes as well, we talk about possibility and limits. We can't forget the physical conditions. the appearance, right? That sometimes we go through and we're like, and kids, if they don't have the help from other ones who perhaps have gone through this situation, finding themselves, they also getting themselves into issues that perhaps we didn't go through, or it's kind of hard to deal with later on in life. Religion. In the family setting, there is a saying in Portuguese that it's hard to translate to into an English and make sense, some sense out of it. If you eat of my beans, you follow my religion. It's kind of that way. We don't want to impose anything on our kids. We don't want to impose any ideas. But the beautiful thing is for us to exercise this invitation of, look, let's look of something beyond ourselves. Let's look at the necessity to find a creator, our creator, in our lives. That we're not everything, and we're far, far from it. And with religion then, with this invitation to find something greater than ourselves, then kids will feel more secured. They'll perhaps not follow us, but later on in life, they'll have something to lay back on and say, you know what? Let me pray. This is a moment. This is a difficult moment. Whatever religion we're following. Spiritism, we can certainly talk about Spiritism that has a lot to offer. And the idea to offer that, as we mentioned here earlier, that there's a continuation after this life. It's something liberating. Sometimes kids may not grasp it, but it cannot be imposing. It cannot be in an imposing manner. Because if we impose, if we say, oh, it has to be this way, it has to be that way, without showing them reason, because they will ask why. Why do you follow this? Why do you believe this way? Why do you think that way? And we don't show them, we don't give them that reason. Anything that you do later on in life, and you step on their toes, they're going to use that against you. How many kids we see that they go through that, okay, you know what? My father did this, my mother did this, and if that person, since we're talking about Spiritism here, is a Spiritist, oh, that center this, center that, and when they hear later on, they will have that adversity to it, which is not good. And we can blame Spiritism for whatever wrongdoings that we were doing, but it comes with us because it's our label, right? It's our signature. This is a funny one, and we brought this funny cartoon here. I'm not coming out for dinner. Didn't you read my blog? Influence of the media. It's a very interesting topic because some time ago we also on Kardec Radio we learned a little bit more about this influence of Facebook and all those things that are going on right now. Different from what perhaps 10 years, 15 years ago we didn't have, because it's going pretty fast. Every day there's something new. Now there's something called, I don't know, Instagram, whatever the kids can say, Instagram. I'm like, what is that now? But it's only pictures. There's no comments. I'm like, okay, so did it get better or did it get worse now? But anyways, it's changing constantly. Not only the media, but also technology that is supposed to help us, but sometimes we take a step back because we're not utilizing for the right purpose. So all of these things can be guided in the family, because if we wait for society to teach, obviously they're not going to teach in a pleasant manner. They're going to impose things, the police or whatever it is, they're going to, take it in a much more aggressive way if we don't do it at home, if we don't kind of try to tame some of these necessities and these feelings at home as well. Just things for us to think about it. Nothing here, as we're saying, is for us to think that, oh my God, I lost this opportunity. Because what passed has passed. Now, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we have in our hands, knowing that we have gone through the same thing. Another case that we would like to bring here that will illustrate two main things. It's kind of hard to see on the picture that we put up there. Love and forgiveness. We have talked a little bit about love here as we come towards the closing of this talk, which is something that Joanna and Angelis touched very, very beautifully about love and forgiveness. And before we go into the case, it's something that, as she says, has to be practiced. It's not something that we grasp it. We'll see later on, we'll see also in the same chapter of Action-Reaction that Russo mentions that love is something really interesting, that sometimes we put our tastes on it and our ideals on it, our passion, and we taint it. It's like a cup of water. have a cup of water, and you put a drop of red in there, some kind of red tint or something, it will turn red. It's still water, but it's now red. And what do we have to do? Purify the water again so it becomes clear water so we can drink it. But it's our taste to it. We add our passions to it. And we have to practice this until we get it right, until we don't put any taint anymore on that water, if we can say it that way. Forgiveness is the same thing. We're not going to be able to conquer the idea of forgiveness if we don't try every day. If we don't teach that on the kids as well, to say, I'm sorry. I was loud. I kind of went over the limit. How can you ask the kid later on to say, I'm sorry, if you're not saying that at home, if you're not telling them, or to your partner, or in society as well? Not that you're going to go out and say, I'm sorry, so the kid can see it. But we need to do these things. And as early as we can do, the better will be. The better will be, you will give them the chance through the examples to also say, I'm sorry, to also ask for forgiveness. But here's the example. This is chapter 20 of, again, the book Boa Nova, Good News, that it describes the first encounter of Mary of Magdalene with Jesus. And after she heard what Jesus was doing, the changes that he was bringing to everyone's heart. And the love that she had with her was not the right love, was the tainted one. The passions that she was going through was the dark passions. And it's very beautiful the way Humberto de Campos describes the whole thing. Very poetic, but it's a way to call ourselves to this idea of love as well as forgiveness. Because she's very, she's very concerned on how Jesus will take her, being the person that she was, full of problems that she created in her life and all. And she's like, what am I going to do? She's also fearing the other apostles also that didn't recognize her as part of society, as a woman. If we go back 30 years ago, if someone leaves a woman to leave a marriage, was the end of that person's life. Nowadays, thank God, things are different because we can make our choices whichever way we want it. There are still some problems that we have to fix, but it's not that we should say that a normal thing, but it's an understandable thing because everybody's free to choose and we respect more. But back in that day, oh my goodness, you wouldn't want to be that person. But then she's all concerned. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to go through this? And this is, as he describes, it's actually a moment at Peter's house, and there she is in front of Jesus, and she's talking to Jesus, and I'm looking for love. I want love. And I have love, but I'm looking for something else because this is not fulfilling my life anymore. And Jesus looking at her compassionately, and also she's concerned about what others may say, Peter, because again, they didn't consider her, part of society anymore. And Jesus then brings her and says, "Come, you're now looking for love, and it's okay. You're hearing God calling us and calling you." And he says, "Mary, lift up your eyes to heaven and rejoice on the way, because you listen to the good news of the kingdom, and God blesses your joy. Do you by chance think that someone in the world is condemned to eternal damnation? Where is then the love of our Father? Haven't you seen the spring give flowers on a house in ruins? The ruins are human creatures, but the flowers are the hope in God. Paternal blessing of God descend and call over all men's own faults and misfortunes. You feel today this new sun that illuminates your destiny. Walk now under its light, because love covers all multitude of sins." A beautiful example of forgiveness by our Master. A beautiful example of love as well. Not criticizing this person the way she was, and welcoming her to her new beginning, because it was a beginning for her. And then Humberto de Campos described what she went through, all the difficulties with the lepers individuals, the suffering ones that she helped in her way. And as she dies, Jesus coming back and taking her through that, as he says, you have walked through the straight door and taken her with him. And we see this. How can we apply this in this idea of adolescence? This partnership is understanding. Is looking at an individual and say, okay, you're going through some tribulations right now, but let's give hands to one another and let's walk together. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because Jesus also alerts her that it's a straight door, and we quite often want to take the larger door, the easy, the escape ways, right? And now, as we said before, is it easy? It's much easier said than done. So the example of forgiveness, the example of love in our lives is crucial for us to change our lives around. It's crucial for us to, again, look at a new society in the future in looking to happiness in general without these two aspects of love and forgiveness. When we talk about this idea of love and forgiveness in our life, when we go through the mutual expectation, we tend to expect much more of others, right, than they can expect from us. If we were to ask, what are kids expecting from us? What is society expecting from us? What is school expecting from me? Work, my friend, my partner. What are they expecting from me? Have that crossed our minds? It's that mutual expectation. They're expecting something from us as well. They may not say it, they may not verbalize it, but we can see it through our, in our daily lives. Sometimes the way they act towards all of us as well. And we have to help our kids. We have to help our adolescents that there's a mutual expectation in general. So as we're doing this with love, as we approach them with love and showing, okay, I'm giving, I also need to receive because I'm son or daughter of God. We instill this idea of mutual expectation on them. That comes, that also helps in the self-realization, because no matter how crippled the person is, no matter how difficult the person may look, if we can say it that way, or no matter what that kid or that person or that individual has or not, with love, we conquer all. With understanding, there is no obstacle that we cannot jump or that we cannot go around, because they need that self-realization. They need to fit in. Who doesn't like to fit in? You go to a location. If you were to walk here at the Spiritist of Baltimore and nobody talks to you, something's wrong. Something's wrong. You will feel like, okay, maybe I need to leave. Unless if it's a moment of, prayer or something that we're doing here, people may not talk to you because everybody's trying to concentrate and all. But we need to feel part of something. We are social beings, so we need this. And the kids, as they're going through those changes, they are in that position of self-realization that changes. Sexuality, the same thing. That confidence with love. That now, when they enter into the age of being sexually active per se, they will also provide more than they want to receive. Mutual expectation, right? I'm giving something, but I'm receiving something, but also I'm giving the love, the careness. And then things start changing around, because now it's not just, okay, I'm going to use this person, I'm going to use this situation. We all have expectation. It's the awareness. Dating, the same thing. Even if we're not in that position there, you're starting that idea of dating, then you may think twice before you engage in a dating commitment, if we can say it that way. How many times we have trouble with these things as we were growing up, right? And we look back and we're like, wow. That's one of the reasons we invite everyone to read the book, because it also helps all of us in our day-to-day problems. Because some of the issues that we had in the past now haunts us in a different way, in a different condition. So it's very appropriate for us to read and also invite, as we said, the Existential Conflicts, the Family Constellation book as well, which is a beautiful book. Now, in this idea of changes, in this idea of us helping, what can we get from Spiritism that will help in this change? What can we receive as just some tools that we can utilize in our daily lives? as we can see here, it's just like a lighthouse, for example, that you're looking for okay, where is it? Where's the north? Where's the west? That guidance that we always need. Prayer. We read and more every day with this beautiful science that prayer is definitely an antidote that will help us in many, many cases or every situation. As we connect with our mentors, if the person is being difficult enough that they're not reachable, pray and try to connect with that person's mentors. Ask our mentor to go in, okay, you know what? I need some intervention. If I can do it, please help me some other way. Some other way, help me. And through prayer, we'll be able to accomplish this. And again, this is a constant process, because perhaps if we don't think that it's reachable, it is reachable. Perhaps if we think that we have conquered a problem or solved a problem today, believe me, tomorrow there will be another problem, and we have to engage this. So this is a constant thing, and we can never forget the preventional mode of prayer as well. If everything is calm, give thanks to God and pray more, because the problem may be coming as well, may be on its way. God at home. Does the kid sit still, or does the teenager would like to sit with us at the table and read a book after the things that we saw that we were doing? Quite frankly, not. And it's okay. So we have to engage them somehow, ask them to read, ask them to, how do you talk to God? How do you feel about this? Sometimes just expressing the feelings may be a moment of rescue at the God at home that we can utilize, or the mentors can utilize to help that individual. Read a passage of the book, something small, so they don't bore them to death, because they can get lost pretty fast. But try to do somehow, some way that we can help them as well. We talked about it. Eternal life. Think about the future. It's not this moment. If we can think of, with everybody at work, at school, it's not just about now. It is definitely about now, because whatever I do now, it will change our future. And if we help the kids to understand that, okay, math is pretty hard, but if I don't grasp it now, when I get to calculus later on, right? Spatial algebra, whatever you want to get to, you're not going to get it. So you need that basis. You need that foundation. Eternal life in every single sense. We talk about the book here 2,000 years ago and the repercussion that has in our lives nowadays, 2,000 years after. So think about the future. Let us be that visionary. It's not that we were thinking about, oh my God, what's going to happen? But just be in the now, thinking that, okay, now I can make history. That's something very important that we can take with us. Charity, love in action. Right? Let's go help someone. Go ahead and help someone. Let's help the person at home. Go help this person. The mother needs help. The father needs help. Or the sister, the brother needs help. Oh, but he's lazy. Okay, let's go in there and do it. Because through example, maybe that person will grasp it. If they don't, we're going to have a different talk. But let's try it first. And that's what we have to remind, again, obviously the charity outside, but most importantly the inside as well. What we can help our immediate family members, right? The immediate ones that is right there with you. Sometimes that person is just, doesn't grasp a specific moment of their lives, or they don't understand. They're going through some tribulations. Just by being kind enough to that person and say, give yourself time, praying with that person. It's also charity. It's not just the giving money to others, which we'll also have to practice. This, again, is only for aspect of the lighthouse, as we were saying before. There are many other things that we can add here, and if we hopefully have some time, we can all add and we can all chip in. But I would like to finalize this with two messages. One is from the book Action Reaction, and the other message is from Adolescence and Life by Joanna de Angelis. This is what Druso says in this message, and it's in the same chapter as we just read. When we are born again in the flesh as spirits, in that each of us brings to the human environment a tiny bit of heaven we hope to gain, and a big mantle of the hell we made for ourselves. When we don't have enough strength to ascend to heaven through the opportunities it confers on us, we return to the hell that beckons us from our past. So the seed is there, but we have a lot inside of us that we have to remind ourselves, us adults, let alone our adolescents, the children as well. Some of these aspects, some of these difficulties may arise during the childhood as well, and we have to know how to approach it. It's definitely not easy. It's not the same way that we will approach with an adolescent, a teenager. There demands a little bit more care. Well, I guess care is with everybody, but it's a different way, as we can see. But then, just to complement this, Joanna just says, life is an ensemble of possibilities waiting to be experienced so that the spirit can grow both morally and intellectually. The way people choose to use those opportunities and not the opportunities themselves is what really will define their happy or unhappy outcome. So the opportunity is here now. Are we utilizing the opportunity to be a happy person, or are we letting time pass by and the opportunity to take care of ourselves? Because sometimes it's just like, we're getting pushed in the back and say, okay, go now, do this, do that. And we don't realize that that individual in front of us, that child that perhaps is coming to the spike program, or that kid that belongs to somebody else is just somebody else. It's not my problem. Or the experience in life in general. Are we actually providing them this idea? Take charge. Look at the opportunities right in front of you. Jesus also reminds Mary Magdalene that even though she cannot have kids, that she can take other individuals who suffer just like her as her kids. So it's not necessarily an idea of, okay, this is my biological son or daughter, that I can teach something, that I can give my hand and help. The opportunities are right in front of us. And this is what, this is an extract from this book that we were just trying to bring some highlights. Very short, I know because of time, but the opportunities in front of us. And we're being called at any moment. And let us ascend to the little heaven that we want for us. Perhaps try to take it out, bring it out from the kids, from the teenager, some of this heaven that they bring with them as well. Because we know the natural laws are written in our conscience. So it's just a matter of really work with it, exercise it, love, forgive, and all these good things that we saw here. We will open up then for a couple minutes, Daniel, questions. If you have any comments, any ideas that you'd like to share before we go on to the passages.
I have a question relevant to something I've heard here before, that when you reach adolescence, more characteristics of past life personalities show up. And I just wanted to understand that better.
Most certainly. Thank you. That is true. And let us think that the physical body of a child is not yet fully capable of, let's say, reproduce that what we bring with ourselves. Thus, the idea of during childhood, that forgetfulness of the past is more clear. And then as we go through the changes that we're going through in adolescence as well, which gears a lot of these feelings or brings back to life a lot of these thoughts, feelings that we bring from the past, comes back to life again. But we can say that physiologically, definitely the body is not prepared yet. As we go through the changes, then we're capable enough to receive or remember some of these feelings. So that basically would be the way that we can explain in short words, obviously.
Okay. So when these characteristics come back, they could be what we would call good or bad. And it does explain when a parent says, where did this child come from?
Very wisely, yes, yes. It is good or bad. But remember, as the child is preparing to, again, go through these changes, what are we doing with that time? Childhood. Are we just, accepting the idea, oh, it's just a child? Some of these tendencies, as Daniel explained, they arise in childhood, when they're babies, right? And then you have to kind of tame it down, talk to the child. So when the impulses of the physical body comes at adolescence, they're not reproducing this in a greater scale. They're now able to understand, okay, at least ask for help, let's put it that way. But yes, then we'll be able to see, and society also will be able to see where this individual coming from. Yep. But good question, thank you.
Yeah, to piggyback off a little bit what Paula was saying, that's why the significance of the number 7 has so much to do with our lives, because every 7 years, and the first 7 years of a child's life is so significant. And they say within the in Spiritist literature that between when the child is born till age 7, that is the time we need to educate them, because they're not fully incarnated, but they're malleable enough to where we could redirect their negative tendencies to one that's more productive. So when their full personality comes on, they are more conscious of what is, quote, right or wrong. They have more of a sense of what is right and what is wrong. One of the things I wanted to point out is an introduction of the book, Adolescence and Life. It's beautiful what Joanna just said. She says that what happens is that, modern society has created like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all these things, and it's so accessible for teenagers, but what happens? A child, when he grows up, and this is just physiologically, anyone who's in the health field can attest to this, is that physiologically we become more mature than we become mature emotionally. Emotionally mature, it happens later. So first, the child in the teenage years, the sexual hormones are coming and they're raging. So, and here we have this social media that we're exposing our children to, and it's extremely dangerous because they don't have the conscience of mind yet to make a good decision. So they're extremely vulnerable to influences that perhaps maybe 10, 20 years ago, they didn't have that type of media or medium. So I would say also for parents to be extremely careful what we are allowing our children to be exposed to nowadays. And for those who say, well, my child is already too old, what would you say to that? If there are parents out there who are listening who have children that are adolescents and they didn't spend time doing a God at home or didn't teach them, could you say it's too late? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I know we've been asked that question before.
That is a very good question, and it's fun enough that when you're talking about the age of 7, this is a topic that we were listening to a radio show once, and a Spiritist radio show, by the way, and the person who was talking about this idea that what have I done to my kids? It's done. There's no way to, so that means there is no change. That way that child is lost, or me as a parent or as a father, as a mother, I failed my task? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because we can take that example, number one, and say, okay, we did wrong here. Let's sit down and let's talk about it. How can we have done this better if we want that situation again? Because that situation will never come back, at least in this lifetime. But then we can make it better. When a new situation arises, then you have that sense of, okay, partnership. Let's talk about it. Let's analyze it, right? I didn't grow up with Spiritism. That make me a better or worse person? No. I had to deal with whatever teachings I had until Spiritism came to my life. I can't blame my parents. If I'm a Spiritist today and they weren't, then it would be nice. Perhaps worse. Perhaps worse, because they would be like really, but they were very, we can say, for lack of a better word, severe. But the idea, Kirsten, to answer that question is for us to be love and kind and to really find a common denominator. And the main thing that we would like to remind as well, that as we heard on the radio show, is the example. The example will speak louder, always. The example will speak louder, always. If the kid or if the adult or if whoever sees that you're trying, that you're making an effort, believe me, that will be your lawyer right there. Your good deeds your good thoughts, your good feelings. And it may not, perhaps in that revolted mind, if we can say it that way, that has something against you at that moment, create some kind of love or repentance. It will later on, because guess what? That individual later on will also be a parent, and they will go back and say, you know what? Now I understand how difficult it was, and the progress of life, and the new reincarnation that we, the stuff that we bring from the past as well. That perhaps when our parents do something against us, we're able to forgive them because we know that, hey, I was a parent once. We don't remember directly, but we have that feeling, and whatever they have done for us. And always remember to finalize this, so we can go in the past, to honor your mother and your father. And if we do that, perhaps the kids will do that one day too. Not that we're expecting anything from them to be the perfect individual, but at least try to be a good citizen of the universe, as we're all trying to aspire to. So we hope these words can help and can guide our lives. Not trying to, as we said before, not trying to incite anything or any feeling of guilt, but really of hope that we can always restart or even start something that we haven't done yet. So that's the message for tonight, and we hope that everyone can take this and apply in our daily lives. We'll pass then to our past session. We'll do a short visualization